I always think it's funny that at such a legendary street spot, which basically gave birth to modern technical ledge skating, that now you can still skate it, but one of the only things that you can skate here is this like roll-on grind. And it's fucking sick that people skate the roll-on grind, but it's kind of anti everything that this plaza is known for. It feels like I'm walking into a cave. Sorry, hi. Are we just hanging out? I don't know, when I come here, I always trip out on just these marks, which are people's axle marks. 3 intense years from like 1991 to 94 of people landing primo as they are rewriting the history of modern street skating. All the different tricks that like started off lines here, you push over this way or head towards the C block, which its footprint is right over here. When they originally built this plaza in 1971, the designer Lawrence Halprin wanted it to look like this big, wide open brick Italian piazza, like maybe the Piazza del Campo in Siena or something. And so it was wide open, there weren't any obstacles here. But by like 1982, they figured that they needed to sort of direct what people were doing. So they hire another architect, William Turnbull, to put a theater right over there. So there was like a stage with a little covered area. Mike Dayer did a sick fucking ollie to layback grind on it. In 1986, you have Mark Gonzalez's interview, and you have him doing 2 key things. He ollies the Gons right there, and he board slides through the kink of the sea ledge, which I guess was like right about here, which was the main like block that everyone skated that Henry completely killed, the sea on top of it. And once again, when you look down at the bricks, you can see these are newer bricks that they put in when they took that out. And this is all the marks of like axles and people landing primo, all the things that Mike and Henry did. This is the marks of that right there. Personal favorite is probably Henry's Pop Shove at Crooks and Tim and Henry's Pack of Lies. Like that is mind-blowing for 1992. This is where the 7 was, which was actually 6 stairs. It was just a double set that was 7 stairs long. That would have been the stage. And there was this wall right here, this concrete wall that Fausto has a photo carving in like the early 80s. That was designed to kind of bring the noise of the fountain back into the plaza. So Gons is riding across that when he ollies the Gons. And when people are doing tricks down the Gons, like that's right there. I don't think anyone else calls this, but to me, this is the Drake section. In the Spitfire video, Drake Jones does a switch 360 flip down the big 3, and on his first try, he like breaks his tail, then he brings his board back up, straightens it, goes back, pops it, catches it, lands away perfectly on a broken board. Just as a coincidence, more recently, Drake Johnson ollied this 6 stair to manual to ollie off, so you know, in my heart, this is the Drake spot. And the only thing that remains from that original design is this fountain, which was designed in 1971 by an artist named Armand Valancourt. There's a scene in Bullet where Steve McQueen's character goes and visits his girlfriend who works in an architect's office.
Is this a new fountain?
And there's a model of this fountain and these ledges and the manual pads and these little gaps between the different ledges, which is so sick. And so that movie was filmed in 1968, and you have the manifestation of their design still here and still extant in the park. Yeah, the water is absolutely disgusting, because not only do these 30,000 gallons get recycled through this fountain daily, but also, being that this is San Francisco, very likely that people piss, shit, bathe themselves, and drink this water. And it's always like this. People hated it. There was one architectural critic who described it as like basically a giant robotic dog took a shit, and this is what he left. The reason why this fountain looked like this, in part, was to take people's attention away from the fact that there was this giant double-decker freeway thundering past this plaza and blocking everyone's views of the bay. So one of the things that Lawrence Halprin and Valancourt were trying to do is to bring a sense of like water and nature and a sense of excitement and movement back into a city that had otherwise been kind of like dead and underpopulated. And also, the fountain's noisy. If you're standing right here, you may not hear the sound of the traffic right there. That freeway that basically wrapped around the back of this park was up and active until 1989. And then the Loma Prieta earthquake happens, breaks part of the freeway gets torn down, the Embarcadero is cleared, and it just so happens that right around 1989, street skating turns away from like curbs and schoolyards and banks and more towards urban plazas and higher ledges. But by like 1990, 1991, when people start skating benches and ledges, this is the perfect place for it. And it's not just that the level of skating in 1992 here was so advanced, it's also that this plaza looks fucking amazing on film. When you have this backdrop of the Embarcadero Center and the hotel and the ferry building right there, it reminds you that you're in the middle of the city. So within a couple of years, you have people like Keith Hufnagel and Chris Keefe and Jeff Pang and all these other people from the East Coast coming to Embarcadero and either intermeshing or just finding a new way to skate this plaza, which I think is so sick. It's also that like big threes, a big oversized set of stairs, or like that height of concrete ledge, all of that came from how influential a spot like Embarcadero was. Like when you go to a skate park like Soma and you see that kinked ledge is probably partially inspired by the kinked ledge that Mike Carroll did a backside lip slide around right there. And I don't know, I mean, there's so many epic photos that have been shot here. You know, from the sequence of Gonza's kickflip to the Mike Carroll nose manual to Javante skating in the yellow Airwalk NTSs. My favorite photo, the most emblematic photo shot at Embarcadero is like an early reel ad where Jim Thiebaud is doing a frontside ollie like right on the corner, I guess, of like where the big three was. So someone set up a piece of plywood here and a piece of plywood there. Not only is he skating the hanging Klansman board, but also graphic itself is based on Shel Silverstein's Giving Tree, which is a story about a tree that continues to give and give and give. So eventually it's this like generous, loving stump. And in a weird way, that's what Embarcadero is now. It's like this like generous, loving stump where the story of modern street skating was etched into its bark. And out of all the spots that were here and all the things that were done, this old ledge is the last thing we have. This ledge is built in 1971. It's 52 years old. This is our history.